Alright, welcome to the Stay System tutorial. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a solid yet simple, effective stay system, right? So unlike most on YouTube, which are either outdated or just plain bad, or either, overly complex or bloated, I'm just going to make a simple and effective stay system, right? Which will do whatever you need it to do, but still as simple as possible, alright? So let's get started. I'm going to quickly show you the example project, right, that I set up here. Okay, so they're on the same page. So it's very simple. All I add is a button and a score counter, which if I click the buttons, I'm just going to increase the score. So I have my score manager script here, right? This is just a reference to the button and the text, and then this is the actual score variable, which want to say. I'll quickly show you the script, right? So again, this is just the logic to basically increase the score every time we press this button, right? It's going to increase the score by 1 and update the text. But again, what matters here is the score variable, right? So I'm going to quickly show you how it works real quick. So here you go. If I click increase score, it's basically going to increase it by 1, right? As you can see, I exposed it in the inspector, right, purposely, so that you can see what happens, right? Every time I click, it will increase the score, okay? So our goal is to basically save this value and have it persist between playstations, because if I will play the game again, it's not going to save. All right, so how do we do this? All right, so we're going to quickly, show you the picture here. Now, if you want to go straight to the tutorial, you can skip in the sections down below, but here I'm going to give a quick overview of how it's going to work, okay? So basically, we want to save this variable, which will be in our RAM, right, in our memory, right? Which, when we're playing the game, it's going to stay there, but obviously when we stop the game, it's going to basically be cleared from RAM, right? It's not going to persist, right? So we want to make this persist somehow. So how do we do this? We basically want to write this to our hard drive, right? So to our hard disk, right? I'm going to say HDD, whatever. To our hard drive, right? We want to be able to write it from our RAM to our hard drive. So we're basically going to have to write this data into some file on our hard disk, okay? So how are we going to do this, right? So first off, we're going to have a template, right, to write it to a file, which we're going to call our save data, right? This is going to basically be a class holding all the data that we want to save, acting as a template for us to write to our file then, okay? Now, how do we write it to a file, right? I mean, the file can be different formats, right? Because the idea is basically you write it to a file, and then you're able to read that data and convert it back into objects, right? But in our case, we're going to use JSON, which is widely used, right? It's going to be a JSON file, right? Now, how do you convert our data into a JSON file? So we're going to use the JSON serializer, right? Which basically comes with Unity, right? So JSON serializer, all right? So that's what we're going to use to basically convert this into JSON and then write it to our disk. So what's going to handle all of this logic is going to be our save system. All right, save system. All right, this is basically going to handle all of the logic to convert our data to JSON format, and then it's going to write it to a file on our disk. And then when we load the game, we're going to basically read that file again with the logic of our save system. We're going to read it, and then we're going to basically put it back into our save data class, right? So all of the data is going to be read and be converted back into variables in our save data class, all right? So that's the gist of it. And then basically our game classes, right? So our game stuff is basically gonna read this save data upon loading, and then it's gonna have the correct value, right? And when you want to save, it's gonna basically put the correct value into the save data before saving, right? But again, it's gonna make a lot more sense when we get started. So let's do just that, all right? So first step is going to be to create the data. So again, here I just have the example stuff that I'm going to create. So I'm going to actually create a folder here. Call this. All right, call this save system. Call this save system. All right. Okay, so let's start with the data. So I'm going to click create scripting and this script. Right, call this save data. All right. So let's open that. All right, so our save data is actually being very simple. So here we're just going to put the data that we actually want to be saved. So in this case, it's just going to be this score variable. So what we're going to do is create a loop. Score variable. Okay. So again, we're just going to put this score variable right here. Now, right now it doesn't make that much sense, but later you understand like why. Now, make sure that this is public, by the way, because yeah, for it to be able to be written to a file, it has to be public. All right. So with that done, let's just go proceed to our save system. There we go. All right, open this up. All right, so with our save system class now created here, the first thing I actually want to do is make this a singleton, which I'll quickly just do. So I'll explain, if you're not familiar with what a singleton is, I'll explain it in a little bit, but I'll just quickly, so I'll do static save system instance, right? And then I'm going to do public static system instance. Yeah. Okay, so this is a singleton, right? So what a singleton is basically it makes sure there's only one instance of your class. So in this case, save system, right? We only want there to be one instance at a time of our save system class, right? And we also want this to be easily accessible from anywhere. So that's basically what this does, right? Which you'll see in a bit how easily we can access everything in our save system class through this save system instance that we just created, right? So this is the actual instance, and then this is just some basic validation where if we're trying to get the instance right, if it's equal to null, we're going to create a new instance. Otherwise, we're just going to return this instance. So we're just making sure that there is only one instance in our of our save system, right? Okay, so next step, what we're going to do is actually define our file path. So this is basically the location where we're going to save our file. Okay, so I'm going to do read only because again we don't want to modify this, right? It should never be modified under any circumstance. String file path. I'm going to call this file path. Right. So I'm going to set this to application dot persistent data path plus now this is going to be the name of our file. I'm going to call this save data dot. Okay, there we go. So by the way, if you don't know what the persistent data path is, this is basically a default location where Unity will save your game files, right? And then this is just basically the name of the file, right? So this is basically going to be the name of the file we're saving. Okay. So I'm going to show you later, by the way, where exactly your file is saved. But for now, just you can just copy this. You can actually name the file whatever you want. But yeah, that's it for the file path. All right. So now I actually want to make an instance of our save data in our save system class. So I'm just going to so I'm going to do save data equals new save data. Okay, so all right, so again, we want to be able to access our our save data from here, right? It's basically going to act as our save system is also going to act as a bridge between our save data and our game class, for example, this one, right, which we'll see later. So I also want to expose this score variable here. So what I'm going to do is public in get score. I'm going to do return save data not score. Simple as that. Let me actually write this into a simple notation. So yeah, let me just do this. So public and score. Do save data score. So this is basically comes down to exactly the same as what I just wrote earlier, but it's a much simpler and cleaner notation, right? So and then we also want to be able to set the scores. We're going to do public void set score in score, and then we're going to do save data score equals score, right? So we're going to assign what we pass into our score here, right? Now we can actually add some validation here, which I'll just do to give you an example. So what I can do, for example, is if score is smaller than 10,000 or smaller than, we'll just basically ask. Otherwise, we won't, because we'll just assume that the player is somehow cheating or that it's a bug, right? You can also use this to perform certain validation. Okay, so all right, now so with that done, let's actually write the logic to save to our file. So for now, we're not really using this, but you'll see later why we need this, right? For now, let's just write the logic to save your file. So I'm gonna do void. Well, for now I'm gonna special, but we're gonna do this a little bit later. But so we're gonna do save to file, like so. So what we're gonna do is write the data to our disk, right? So again, the first step is going to be to convert the save data object, right, into a JSON format. So to do this, I'm going to do string file data equals JSON utility dot to JSON save data. So again, this is basically going to take this save data object and convert it into JSON format, right? Which at the end of the day is just text, right? JSON format is just text. So again, you can just store this into a string, right? And this is what I talked about earlier. Basically, this utility is just integrated in Unity, right? So this will basically convert your data to JSON for you, right? So now that we have a JSON, right, in a string, the next step is to actually write the file, right? All we did right now is just convert it into JSON format, right? Now we actually want to write this JSON to a file on our disk, right? So what we're gonna do is system.io.file.write all text and then save that and file data, right? So again, so our save bat we define over here is basically the location where it's going to save our file, and then the file data is again what we're basically writing to our file, which is going to be this JSON string right here, right? So that's basically it for us to save to our file. Okay. So the next step is to also want to be able to read our file. So we're going to do void load from file. All right. So what we're going to do here is load from a file. So what we're going to do is string string file data again equals system.io.file.real text save that, right? So now we're basically again we're doing the opposite. We're reading our file and basically putting it into a string. Now, and this is basically our JSON, right? Now we want to convert this data back into our save data object, all right? So what we're going to do is JSON utility dot from JSON save data file data, right? we're basically going to do save data. Just going to save data equals. All right. So yeah, what we're doing here is we're setting our save data object. We're setting it equal to the value of basically of our JSON that just got converted back into an object, right? So we're basically reading this JSON, converting it back into a save data object, and then assign that value to the save data instance we have right here. Okay, that's basically what we're doing. Okay, so that's basically the gist of the JSON. So pretty simple, as you can see, right? So now let's just give this a test. Now we're still going to expand upon it, but we can actually just give it a quick test to see how it works, right? So in our score manager here, what I'm going to do, when I increase the score, I'm going to do save system, save system dot instance dot set score. I'm going to put this to score, right? I'm just going to save right away. Why not? So I'm going to say system.instance.save to file. All right. So again, this is basically going to save this to our file. Next, I'm going to basically load the values when I start the game. So on start, I'm just going to keep it simple for now, but again, we're going to expand upon this. When I start the game, I'm going to load these values. So what I'm going to do is dot instance dot load data, load from file. All right, so this will basically load the data. Okay, then I'm going to do save system dot I'm going to do score equals save system dot instance dot score. Right. So again, what we're doing here is, again, before we save to our file, we're basically assigning this, this score variable in our save data, right? We're setting it to the correct value. Then we're saving this save data to a file, right? Which we're doing right here, right? We're basically saving this data to a file in this path, right? And then when we start the game, we're basically going to load our data from this file again, and we're going to assign our score. Okay, so let's actually test this out. So I'm going to just click play. All right, let's see how this works. All right, so yeah, we actually got an error here. Our file is not found, so we actually have to add some validation. Okay, so yeah, right. So it's trying to basically read this file, but again, we haven't saved it yet because again, it's trying to load before we save, which is actually a valid thing. So what we actually want to do is if I actually put a guard clause here. So if file.exists save that, we're going to do this. Right. There we go. All right. So for now, we're going to keep it simple. Now, again, you can expand upon this, make it a little bit more robust, but for now, we're just going to do this, right? So again, we're just going to check if this, because we don't want to, we can't read from non-existent files. So we're just going to check if the file exists first, okay? So let's just try it again. Now, don't worry, if the file doesn't exist, the saved data, it's just going to be basically empty. I mean, it's just going to be a new instance, so this will be 0 by default, because in C# and int it's going to be 0 by default. So even if it doesn't load anything, it's going to be the default value, which would be 0 right now. So this should do the job. All right, so let's just play now. Okay, so I'm going to increase my score, right? Times. All right. So as you can see, my score is 9 right now. You can see both on the screen and also in the spectre, right? So now when I restart, it should be put to 9. And there's, okay, it hasn't updated the UI because, I forgot to do that. But as you can see, the score actually started at 9. So that's a little bug on my end. But again, it's working exactly as intended, right? So it's basically saving our score. Let me actually fix this bug real quick. So I just want to do, so now, obviously after setting the score, I just want to score text dot text equals score to string. Okay. So now if I just come back and play, it's gonna have the exact score that it had before. All right, so I'm gonna play, and there it is. It starts with 12. So now I'm going to show you how exactly this is working. So I'm going to show you also where to find this file. So in our file explorer, we're going to type in %app data %. So this is just a shortcut because it's a pretty hidden folder, right? Just a pain to manually get there. And we actually end up in app data roaming. So we're going to click on app data, go one folder back. We actually want to go to local low. Then you want to go to default company. So then you may ask, why the fuck is it called default company? But it's just because basically, when you make your new project, your company is going to be called default company. That's going to be the default, right? If you don't change the name, right? So that's what it's called, but that's actually your game company. So if you click on there, you can basically find the project. For me, it's called tutorial, right? So this is my project, and there it is. That's the save data file we actually just created. As you can see, it's a JSON file. Okay. So now I can double click this and actually open this, right? Which I can do in a text editor. So for me, it opens in Visual Studio, which is funny because I'm using the normal Visual Studio to actually program, and now it's opening it in Visual Studio Code. But there it is. See, that's literally our save file. So again, the score is set to 12. This is actual JSON format, right? I'm going to show you something. If I change this to first, let's say 20, which I mean, in this case would be cheating. I go back into my game. I'm going to click play. And now the score will be 20. There it is. So again, it's basically read the data from this file and then convert it back into an object. Now, obviously, as you just saw, you can basically cheat, because it's pretty simple format. You can just basically go in and edit it. So if you want to prevent cheating your game, you actually want to encrypt this file on top of that, which we're not going to do in this tutorial because that's a little bit redundant, right? But if you really want to prevent cheating, you might want to encrypt the file, right? But then again, for single player games, it really doesn't matter that much at all. Okay. So that's basically our save system, but again, it's not that robust right now. So it's actually already working. As you can see, it's really simple. It's just literally, we have our save data, which is just a few lines, and then we have our save system, which again is just not that many lines, right? We just have this is just for singleton instance, so this doesn't really matter. And then we have our save data, and we just basically have this, and then just the logic to save and load from a file. Well, again, it's not very robust right now because let's say we want to save from multiple sources. So right now I just have my score, but let's say we actually want to save multiple values and have more control over what we save, because right now it's just loading when the game starts and then saving as the value gets updated. But what if we want to save and load whenever we want to, right? So let's actually implement that right now and make the system more robust, okay? So I'm just going to quickly expand my example, so I'm going to quickly speed this up, so bear with me here. All right, so I'm done expanding your example. So I basically added a damage value, right? So literally the script, and it's exactly the same as score manager, only just that I haven't implemented the saving and loading yet. But again, we're gonna make some tweaks, so it's gonna be later. And then I simply added a save and load button, which again we're also gonna use in a bit. So let's just quickly show you a second. So again, exactly the same. It loaded the score like I did earlier. Now I also have a damage button, and as you can see, same thing. I can just click to increase it, and I also exposed it in the inspector so you can see the value. All right. So now, again, let's say you want to save both of these values, right? So again, the first step would be to also add these in the same data. So again, I'm going to do public in damage, right? Let me quickly speed this up. And same thing, I'm also going to expose the damage here through our save system. Just going to quickly speed this up. All right, that's it. So again, but now we want to have control over when we save and load the game, right? We want to have more control over it, and we also want to be able to easily save multiple values at the same time from multiple classes, right? So how are we going to go about this, all right? So let's actually work. So we're going to make some events, right? So I'll show you right away. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to make a public action. I'm going to call this on save. All right. See. Okay, so yeah, if you get an error, you have to be using systems again. I just got I had like a red squiggly line, so you just click here, using so you have to include using system to be able to use this. All right. I'm gonna make this action on save, right? So if you're not familiar with actions, basically this is a data type that allows you to store methods or functions, right? You can store multiple functions in here, and then you can basically invoke this action, and that will basically execute all the functions that it holds, right? Which, it'll make sense in a second when we use this, all right? So I'm gonna make this on save action. I'm also gonna make a public action on load. All right. Again, it's gonna make sense in a second. We need these to be able to basically fire an event for all our to save and load everything at once that we may need. Okay. So now I'm actually going to make a small change in our score manager. So instead of just manually calling this, load from file here and then setting the score, whatnot, right? What I actually want to do is, let me just remove all this, right? So now it's back to how it was before, okay? So again, what I actually want to do is on store, actually I'm going to do this on wake. Now, if you're not familiar with wake, it's basically just exactly like store, but it gets called even before that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my save system instance here, and I'm going to subscribe to these events, right? I'm basically going to add, I'm basically going to assign methods to these events. So I'm going to create a on save method here, all right? And then I'm going to also create on load. Oh, oops. All right. So what I'm going to do in on save is simply, as I was doing earlier, I'm going to do save system dot instance dot set score. Okay, we're just going to assign the score here. Okay. Then on load, what I'm going to do is do the opposite. So the score equals save system dot instance dot score. Right. So what I'm going to do is basically subscribe to this event with my save. I'm going to do on save. So make sure you use plus equals, because if you just do equal, if you just do this, it's gonna override the event, right? But if you do plus equals, it's gonna basically add this method to the event, all right, to the action. Okay, so same for the on load. Okay. So again, plus equals on load. All right. So I'm going to do the same in our damage manager, which I'm going to quickly speed up here. All right, so that's done now. So I'm actually going to make another quick tweak on our save system here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make these, so save the file private, same as load from file. Right, so this again specifically load and write file. What I actually want to make separate save and load functions. I'm going to do, and I'm going to actually make this public. So I'm going to do public void save. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to invoke this method. So I'm going to do onSave.invoke. This is basically going to invoke this action, which will execute every single method that it contains, right, as I said earlier, right? And then after, so that's basically going to, populate this the save data class, because again, right, in this onSave methods, we're basically setting the correct values in save data. Then right after I did that, I'm just going to save it to our file, right? Like so. And for unload, I'm basically going to do the opposite, right? So I'm just going, not unload, sorry, load. So in our load function, I'm still going to be doing the opposite. I'm going to load from our file, right? So load from file, okay? Which is again going to read the file and populate the variables and save data with the correct values, right? And then I'm going to invoke onLoad, right? Which in turn, again, all of these onLoad methods are going to assign the value from save data to the respective variable, right? So it's just basically loading more values, okay? So that's basically it for our save system. There's just one little last thing that we want to do, because right now nothing is calling these save and load functions. Now, obviously, this is heavily dependent on your game, because for some games you might want to, call this from your main menu controller, or maybe from a checkpoint that you want to save, right? So this is heavily game dependent, right? But here I'm just going to make actually, this is not really part of a save system, so I'm just going to call this. I'm actually gonna just put this here. It's not strictly part of our save system, right? Just to be clear. Although it's heavily. So there it is. I just quickly split it up, because again, all we're doing is we're just taking the save button and the load button that I have right here in my scene, right? And we're basically just so when we click the save button, we're just calling the save system save function, and then here in the load, when we click the load button, we're doing the same for the load function, right? So again, this is just basically a wrapper. This is not related to our save system, right? Just to be clear. But again, this is just saying the logic that when we click, we save, right? So that way we can decide when we save and load. So one last thing I actually want to do here is on load. I actually also want to set the UI, which is pretty important. So I'm just going to do equals. All right. So that's completely done now. So now we're actually completely finished with our save system. So I'm going to actually demonstrate you right now. So in my save menu controller, I'm simply going to assign my save button and my load button, right? So now when we click our load button, the game is going to load, and when we click our save button, the game is going to save, right? So we're going to start again, right? So as you can see, it starts with 0, 0, okay, because we haven't loaded anything. So it just starts with 0, 0, right? You can actually even increase the things here. If I click on load, there it is. Boom. Works exactly as expected. So again, it just loaded the data from the JSON file, and it populated the correct variables, right, with the correct values, right? So again, we can also test this again. So I'm just going to increase my damage to 15. Increase my scoring a little bit more, right? I'm going to click save, right? Now I'm going to exit and restart my game. There we go. I'm going to click load. There it is, working exactly as expected. So that's it for a very simple yet effective save system. So again, our core system is just literally our save data, which just a few lines. Then our save system, we're just exposing our save data through here, right? Because again, it's just a lot safer, because this way we can actually also enforce certain validation. Now, here I just kept it really simple, but you can enforce more validation if you want to, all right? Then here we just have the logic to write and load from our file. And then here we're basically gonna invoke the save and load event, which in turn will, you know, basically, yeah, make sure that every game class will, yeah, assign their values to the save data, right? So again, on save, we're basically just, assigning or, yeah, or the data we want to save to our save data class, right? We're calling this, and then on load, we're again retrieving the data from the save data class and putting it into our, game classes, right? So there you go. That's your save system. So I hope you enjoyed the video, right? If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, right? Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought, what you think of the video, right? So see you next time.